Welcome to another deep dive. Today we are taking a closer look at one of the most iconic American novels of the 20th century, The Great Gatsby.
It's a story that has captivated readers for generations, and for good reason. It's a story about love and loss and wealth and class and the American dream and so much more.
And to help us unpack all of that, we're gonna follow this story chronologically, starting with the arrival of our narrator Nick Carraway in West Egg, Long Island.
Nick is a young man from the Midwest who moves east to learn the bond business. It's the summer of 1922, and America is in the midst of this kind of a post-war economic boom. It's a time of great prosperity and social change. People are, drinking, partying, spending money, and trying to forget the horrors of World War I.
And West Egg is where the newly rich are congregating. It's all colossal mansions and lavish parties.
Yeah, and Fitzgerald contrasts this kind of ostentatious display of wealth with the more understated elegance of East Egg, where the established old money families live.
And Nick finds himself right in the middle of it all. He's renting this modest little cottage, which is sandwiched between Jay Gatsby's enormous mansion and another sprawling estate.
It's really symbolic, isn't it? Like he's caught between these two worlds, the world of new money and the world of old money. And he's observing it all from this unique vantage point.
And then there's Gatsby, this mysterious figure who throws these legendary parties that attract hundreds of guests. Every weekend, his mansion is just overflowing with people.
But no one seems to know who he is or where he comes from. There are all these rumors swirling around him, right?
Oh, all kinds of crazy rumors.
Some say he was a German spy during the war. Others say he's a bootlegger. Some even whisper about a connection to the underworld.
It's like he's this blank slate onto which people project their own fantasies and desires.
Right. He's this enigmatic figure who represents both the allure and the danger of the American dream, and I think that's what makes him so fascinating.
It's interesting. For all the people who attend his parties, Gatsby himself remains a bit of a recluse. He seems to observe the revelry from a distance, like he's not really a part of it.
It's as if he's searching for something, or waiting for someone.
Almost like he's putting on a show for a specific audience.
Exactly. And as we'll see, that audience is one person in particular, Daisy Buchanan, the woman who holds the key to Gatsby's heart and the reason behind his grand facade.
Uh-huh. So Gatsby is in love with Daisy.
Obsessed might be a better word, and that's what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive. We'll delve into their past and how their love affair, cut short by war, became the driving force behind Gatsby's relentless pursuit of wealth and status. Welcome back. So we left off with this image of Gatsby gazing across the bay at the green light at the end of Daisy's dock. That green light, by the way, it's become one of the most enduring symbols in American literature.
It represents Gatsby's longing for Daisy, his yearning for the past and for a future with her.
Right, and it also represents the allure of the American dream, this idea that anything is possible if you just reach far enough.
But as we dig deeper into Gatsby's story, we learned that the past isn't quite as golden as he remembers it.
And that the American dream, well, it often comes with a hefty price tag.
So let's talk about Gatsby's past. Who was he before he became Jay Gatsby?
Well, his real name was James Gatz. He was born into poverty in North Dakota. His parents were farmers, and Gatsby, or I guess James at the time, he never accepted that life.
He always wanted more.
He had this grand vision of himself, this idea of who he could be, and he was willing to do whatever it took to make that vision a reality.
So he reinvented himself, he changed his name, he learned how to move in wealthy circles, and he amassed a fortune.
Right, and this transformation is really central to understanding Gatsby's character. He's a self-made man, but he's also a man who's built his life on a lie.
And it's all for Daisy, isn't it?
Yeah.
He wants to win her back, to prove that he's worthy of her.
Exactly. He believes that if he can recreate the past, if he can become the man she once loved, then she'll leave Tom and they can be together.
But Daisy is married to Tom Buchanan, a man who represents everything Gatsby despises.
Tom is old money, he's entitled, and he's utterly careless with the lives of others.
And yet Daisy stays with him. Why?
Well, I think it's partly because she's afraid to leave the security and comfort of her life with Tom, and I think there's also a part of her that's drawn to Tom's power and status.
So what happens when Gatsby and Daisy finally meet again?
Well, Nick arranges a tea party at his cottage. It's awkward at first, but then the spark between Gatsby and Daisy, it starts to reignite.
Gatsby takes Daisy on a tour of his mansion. He throws these lavish parties for her. He wants to impress her with his wealth.
Yeah, but it's all very calculated, isn't it?
It feels almost desperate, like he's trying to buy her love.
And that's where the cracks in Gatsby's facade start to show.
Tom becomes increasingly suspicious. He senses the connection between Gatsby and Daisy, and he's not happy about it.
There's this one scene where Tom and Gatsby, they have this kind of confrontation at George Wilson's gas station. Remember George Wilson?
The husband of Myrtle, Tom's mistress.
Right. And it's during this confrontation that Gatsby reveals the truth about Tom's affair.
Talk about adding fuel to the fire.
Right. And from there, things just spiral out of control. You have the showdown at the Plaza Hotel where Gatsby demands that Daisy tell Tom that she never loved him.
Which, of course, she can't bring herself to do.
No. And then you have the tragic car accident where Daisy, driving Gatsby's car, accidentally kills Myrtle.
That's the turning point in the story, isn't it? Everything changes after that.
Absolutely. Gatsby's dream is shattered.
So we ended last time on a pretty devastating note. Myrtle Wilson dead, Gatsby taking the blame for Daisy, and George Wilson, I mean, he's consumed with grief and rage.
It's a recipe for disaster, right. And that's exactly where the story takes us in this final act.
It doesn't take long for the truth about the accident to get out. I mean, this is a small town, and rumors spread like wildfire.
Of course. And Tom Buchanan, well, he sees an opportunity to manipulate the situation to his advantage.
He tells George that Gatsby was the one driving the car, and implies that Gatsby was also having an affair with Myrtle.
He's essentially sending George on a path of revenge.
And George, blinded by grief and rage, he believes Tom. He sets out to find Gatsby and exact his revenge.
It's a tragic misunderstanding, a series of events set in motion by Tom's callous disregard for the truth.
It culminates in Gatsby's death. George finds him at his mansion and shoots him dead in the pool.
It's a brutal and senseless end to a man who dreamed of a better life, a life filled with love and beauty.
And what about Daisy? Did she even know what happened?
She and Tom, they flee Long Island shortly after the accident. They retreat back into their world of wealth and privilege, leaving behind the wreckage they've created.
It's almost as if they just erased Gatsby from their lives, as if he never even existed.
And that's the real tragedy, isn't it? That Gatsby dedicated his life to winning Daisy back, only to realize in the end that she was never truly worth the sacrifice.
And what about Nick? He's the one who witnesses this whole tragedy unfold. How does he react?
Nick is deeply affected by Gatsby's death. He sees it as a waste, a symbol of the American dream gone sour. He realizes that the world he's been a part of, this world of lavish parties and careless wealth, it's all an illusion.
Yeah, so he decides to leave West Egg. He goes back to the Midwest, disillusioned by the experience and carrying the weight of Gatsby's story with him.
It's a sobering ending to a story that started out with such promise and excitement.
The Great Gatsby is a powerful novel that explores the dark side of the American dream. It's a story about love, loss, obsession, and the corrupting power of wealth.
It's a story that continues to resonate with readers today because it speaks to some universal truths about human nature, our desires, and our capacity for both great love and great destruction.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into The Great Gatsby. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking. We encourage you to pick up the book if you haven't already and explore the world of Jay Gatsby for yourself. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a different literary classic. Until then, happy reading.